Okay. Call to order the meeting of Board of Directors of BAWSCA, Thursday, January 15th. It is 6:32. Roll call.
Okay, Director Andrews.
Present.
Director Bro. Here. Director Chambers.
Here.
Director Cohen. Here. Director Duncan.
Here.
Director Hamilton.
Here.
Director Hardy.
Present.
Director Jordan. Director Jordan is in the, Lourdes, Director Jordan is in the waiting room. One second.
Hello, this is Steve.
Steve, we're taking roll call. You're present?
I am present.
Thank you. Director Kiesel. Here. Director Lincoln. Director Manalo. Present. Director Mellinger.
Present.
Director Mickelson. Here. Director Montano. Director Nash.
Here.
Director Piccolotti. Present. Director Pierce.
Here.
Director Ragsdale.
Here.
Director Schneider.
Present.
Director Showalter.
Here.
Director Stevenson.
Here.
Director Stone. Here. Director Vella.
Here.
Director Weed. Here. And Director Zichterman.
Here.
We have quorum.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, we have one member is at a remote location, so all votes will be by roll call. Please concentrate on proper use of your microphone and identify yourself when you're speaking. But we need to make sure you use the microphone so everybody can hear your comments. Okay, next, salute to the flag. We'll all stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, our second item is a special order of business, our election of officers. As you know, at the end of this meeting, the officers change over for the next year. I will first call for nominations for the position of BAWSCA chairperson. Director Hardy.
Thank you, Director Hardy. I would like to nominate our Vice Chair, Luis Vila.
Okay.
Second. Barbara.
Okay. Director Pierce, seconds. Sorry for those who put up their thing. Any other nominees? If there are no other nominees.
Do you want to?
Any other nominees? If there are no other nominees, I'll close the nomination and call for a vote. So roll call vote, either for or not for Director Vila. Roll call.
Okay. Director Andrews.
Aye.
Director Bro.
Yes, for Brisbane and GVMID.
Director Chambers.
Yes.
Director Cohen. Director Duncan.
Yes.
Director Hamilton.
Yes.
Director Hardy.
Yes.
Director Jordan.
Yes.
Director Kiesel. Aye. Director Manalo.
Aye.
Director Mellinger.
Yes.
Director Mickelson. Director Nash.
Yes.
Director Piccolotti. Director Pierce.
Yes.
Director Ragsdale.
Yes.
Director Schneider.
Yes.
Director Showalter.
Yes.
Director Stevenson.
Yes.
Director Stone.
Yes.
Director Vella.
Yes.
Director Weed. And Director Zichterman.
Aye.
All right, unanimous.
Okay. Congratulations, Director Villa.
Thank you. Forgive them, they know not.
Okay, next I'd like to open the nominations for BAWSCA Vice Chair. Director Ragsdale.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to nominate Karen Hardy for Vice Chair, please.
Director Pierce? Okay,
I'd like
I'm
to
sorry. Let's hear it. Well,
Go ahead.
Director
Go ahead,
Schneider.
Ann.
Second.
Okay. Any other nominees for Vice Chair of BAWSCA? Seeing none, I close nominations. We need to vote for vice chair.
Okay, roll call vote. Director Andrews,
Yes.
Director Bro,
Yes, for Brisbane and GVMID.
Director Chambers,
Yes.
Director Cohen, Director Duncan,
Aye.
Director Hamilton,
Aye.
Director Hardy,
Yes, and thank you.
Director Jordan,
Yes.
Director Kiesel, Director Manalo, Director Mellinger,
Aye.
Director Mickelson, Director Nash,
Yes.
Director Piccolotti, Director Pierce,
Yes.
Director Ragsdale,
Yes.
Director Schneider,
Aye.
Director Showalter,
Yes.
Director Stevenson,
Yes.
Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Vella,
Yes.
Director Weed, and Director Ziegderman.
Aye.
All right, unanimous as well.
Okay, congratulations. Item 3 is a break for a meeting of the San Francisco Bay Area Regional Water System Financing Authority.
Could I interrupt? I was hoping to make a public comment on item 2.
Elections.
Is that allowed?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
Steve Warner. I should have done this actually before you voted, but you guys got this handout. And I think you probably saw that, at least news to me, and probably news to some of you, that the proposed water rate increase for next year is going to 7.8%. It was 1% projected in May. And then a year after that, it's going to 7.2%. Again, 1.2% projected in May. And that's what these first two charts show. So it's a bunch of problems. And so that's the backside. Number one, for most of us, I think it was
Is this the election that we're talking about?
we're talking about the election, and my purpose here, and I'll explain my purpose then, is I'm hoping, Chair Vella, as the new chair, that you might make it a priority to address these issues during your term of office, and the same for Vice Chair Hardy. And that's my purpose here. And so I just wanted to briefly go through. To me, these are significant issues. You only meet 6 times a year. It's a big problem. I'm asking if you would spend time on these. And so I was just going to briefly talk about each of these items. May I continue?
One more minute.
Okay. So it's problem number 1, it's a surprise. Problem number 2, the timing's bad. Do we have any ability to influence the outcomes? Number 3, and to me this is the big one, no opportunity to provide input. If you guys are representing $1.8 million of us consumers, how can you be representing us if you don't have any input into the problem? So to me, that's a big issue. Number 5, the last one, rate increase projections now cannot be relied upon. They just changed massively in a period of 7 months. So anyway, I think it's a big issue. I think it should be investigated. There are a couple suggestions down below. My suggestion is we somehow figure out a way to make this a priority in the 6 meetings we have this year. Thanks so much for letting me interrupt this process.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, item 3 is a break for the meeting for the Regional Water System Financing Authority Board of Directors. I think we need to have one member step back.
2 members.
2 members. Well, one of them's in Chicago. No, he's not. Okay, 2 members. Okay, yellow agenda. Okay, I call to order the meeting for the San Francisco Bay Area Regional Water System Financing Authority Board of Directors. This Thursday, January 15th, time is 6:41. Roll call.
Director Andrews,
Present.
Director Bro,
Present.
Director Chambers,
Present.
Director Cohen,
Present.
Director Hamilton,
Present.
Director Herrera, Director Hardy,
Present.
Director Jordan,
Present.
Director Kiesel, Director Lincoln, Director Manalo,
Present.
Director Mellinger,
Present.
Director Mickelson. Director Montano. Director Nash.
Present.
Director Piccolotti.
Present.
Director Pierce.
Present.
Director Ragsdale.
Present.
Director Schneider.
Present.
Director Showalter.
Here.
Director Stevenson.
Present.
Director Stone.
Here.
Director Vella.
Here.
Director Weed. And that is everyone.
Okay, thank you. Our second order of business is a special order of business election of officers for calendar year 2026. I'd like to open the nomination for RFA Chair. Director Hardy?
It's been past practice for it to be the chair again, so I would once again nominate Luis Vila.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Director Pierce seconds. Any other openings or nominees? Seeing none, I close nominations. We need to have a vote for Director Vella as RFA Chair.
Director Andrews.
Aye.
Director Bro.
Yes for Brisbane and GVMID.
Director Chambers.
Yes.
Director Cohen.
Aye.
Director Hamilton.
Aye.
Director Hardy.
Aye.
Director Jordan.
Yes.
Director Kiesel. Director Manalo. Director Mellinger.
Aye.
Director Mickelson. Director Nash.
Yes.
Director Piccolotti.
Aye.
Director Pierce.
Aye.
Director Ragsdale.
Aye.
Director Schneider.
Aye.
Director Showalter.
Aye.
Director Stevenson.
Aye.
Director Stone.
Yes.
Director Vella.
Yes.
And Director Weed. Okay, that's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations again. I'd like to open the floor for nominations as RFA Vice Chair.
I'd like to nominate Karen Hardy, please.
Okay, and who was speaking? Okay.
Director Manalo.
Thank
Daly
you.
City.
Is there a second for Director Hardy? Second by Director Hamilton. Any other nominees? Seeing none, I close nominations and call for a vote.
Director Andrews.
Aye.
Director Bro.
Yes times 2.
Director Chambers.
Yes.
Director Cohen.
Aye.
Director Hamilton.
Aye.
Director Hardy.
Yes.
Director Jordan.
Yes.
Director Kiesel.
Aye.
Director Manalo.
Aye.
Director Mellinger.
Aye.
Director Mickelson. Director Nash.
Yes.
Director Piccolotti.
Aye.
Director Pierce.
Yes.
Director Ragsdale.
Yes.
Director Schneider.
Aye.
Director Showalter.
Yes.
Director Stevenson.
Yes.
Director Stone.
Yes.
Director Vella.
Yes.
And Director Weed. All right, also unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Item 3 is, okay, actually, I'd like to say item 3 is consent calendar. There's 3 items on the consent calendar, which are up on the screen. Do I hear a motion on the?
Motion to approve consent calendar.
Okay, was that Director Nash? Director Manalo said
So
that.
I actually have a change to the consent calendar on item number, on the approval of the minutes. The Board of Directors attendance roster incorrectly shows me as teleconference rather than as present.
I'll take it as a friendly amendment with Director Nash.
Thank you. And I'll be happy to second.
What was the correction to the minutes?
On the attendance roster, it,
Oh, okay. Okay. Yes,
I believe that's for the BAWSCA minutes. We're at the RFA minutes right now.
yeah, we're RFA.
you are correct. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, I'll leave the motion as stands.
okay, Director Manalo has made the motion. Is there a second for the RFA minutes?
Second.
Second by Director Nash. Any questions or comments? Other questions or comments? Seeing none, do I hear a motion on the consent calendar? We already have it, and it's been seconded. Okay, the vote, roll call.
Director Andrews.
Aye.
Director Bro.
Yes, times two.
Director Chambers.
Aye.
Director Cohen.
Aye.
Director Hamilton.
Aye.
Director Hardy.
Yes.
Director Jordan.
Yes.
Director Kiesel. Director Manala.
Aye.
Director Mellinger.
Yes.
Director Mickelson.
Yes.
Director Nash.
Yes.
Director Piccolotti.
Aye.
Director Pierce.
Yes.
Director Ragsdale.
Yes.
Director Schneider.
Yes.
Director Showalter.
Yes.
Director Stevenson.
Yes.
Director Stone.
Yes.
Director Vella.
Yes.
And Director Weed. Okay, unanimous.
Okay, thank you. The next item is comments from the chair. The Regional Financial Authority was established by the legislature to provide funding in case San Francisco PUC lacked the resources to properly protect and improve the reliability of the regional water system. It is an authority we need to keep should BAWSCA ever need to use it in the future. So that's why we have these meetings once a year. Number 5, any public comments for items not on the agenda of the RFA? And that includes Steve Jordan. If you ever have any public there that wants to make comments, please speak up for them.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And if there's hearing no comments on the RFA, public comments, item 6 is the general manager's report.
Thank you, Chair. I will do this report from here because it's very short. There is a Form 700 filing that all directors are obligated to make, and there's an April 1st deadline for that. There are new filing requirements. I will get into those in detail in the BAWSCA board meeting a little bit later in that meeting about where you file and follow up with that. So just keep that in your minds as we get to that meeting. And that's the end of my report.
Okay, thank you. Any director's comments for RFA? Seeing none, I adjourn this meeting. Our next scheduled meeting is January 21st, 2027. Okay, if we could reconfigure the seats for our BAWSCA meeting. Yeah, I'm looking for my other. Okay. I'm reconvening the BAWSCA board meeting. Comments from the chair. Tonight will be a full one, and accordingly, we'll probably have no closed session. You have received an update by email of the stuff was an update on our closed session material. We've completed our elections for BAWSCA and RFA, but still need to consider an optional pension payment to CalPERS. We have a mid-year review of our current budget and initial discussions on next year's work plan and other things. But this will be my last meeting as chair, and I'd like to offer some comments about these past 2 years. I've had several high points, but did start out with a low point, receiving Nicole Sankula's letter requesting her retirement. She was an Argentian trained and had so much experience, how could we ever replace her? With the help of Allison Schude, who kept us legal, we formed an ad hoc committee, which include Lou Vella, Leslie Ragsdale, Barbara Pierce, and Randy Bro, all of whom I want to thank to review and interview candidates, finally making a recommendation to the board. When I first saw Tom Smegal's resume, I felt much better. Thank you, Tom, for applying to our position and bringing your Cal Water financial and upper management experience to BAWSCA. And I want to thank the board for approving our unanimous recommendation. I know BAWSCA is in good hands. Another major high point for which I need to thank the entire board and your agencies is the approval of the Tier 2 allocations in the revised water supply agreement. I hope we never have to implement Tier 2 allocations, but California is a land of droughts, and we need to be prepared as a region to supply our customers with a reliable supply of high-quality water at a fair price. Thank you for looking beyond our individual agencies and approving this regional solution. We may have disagreements, but by taking the time to discuss the alternatives either at our meetings or through our water management reps, we can work out differences and continue to be the regional organization that the legislature intended. By regional, I mean to include San Jose and Santa Clara. Our unity really does give us our strength. Finally, I want to thank Lourdes Enriquez and the rest of the BAWSCA staff for the support over these past few years. I think we all know who really runs BAWSCA. Louis, thank you for helping me these past years, and congratulations on being elected as BAWSCA chair, effective after tonight's meeting. Okay. Okay, item number 6 is BPC report. Director Hardy.
You're going to make me follow that. Shame on you. I will say I have loved being the chair of the policy board committee, and we did make one recommendation, and that was to recommend the approval of the proposed fiscal year bond surcharges. I hope you read through the minutes because we had 2 very long, really robust discussions about affordability and some of the realities that we're all dealing with, and also the option of what to do about the unfunded pension liability. And I chose not to have a vote, but each director weighed in on that. And then we showed a chart of the options that were preferred. And the best way I can say that is about 5 of us felt that 2 was a good option and 2 felt 3 was a good option. But there was no, I want you to just be aware of that as we have that discussion tonight as far as the unfunded pension liability. And remember that this was done a month ago, and sometimes things change. And also, I want the members to understand what it means for the policy board, because we meet here every other month, but the policy board meets on those opposite months. So that doubles the number of meetings, but it also means you have the option of digging very deep into the policy and asking some tough questions and with a smaller group. And there's 9 of us, and that's the chair, the vice chair, the policy board chairman, and then the rest of the committee. And I feel very strongly that it's a good place to learn a lot of things and get a lot of those questions answered. So what I'd like to do, I brought enough of my cards that if you are interested in being on the policy board, I would like for you to contact me. If you have been already and would like to continue, I'd like you to just let me know. And that way, if there is some real interest that I don't know about, I would love to make certain that I'm made aware of that and can let the chair know, because he will be appointing them. So I'm going to pass that out, and I'll run around and do that fast and probably not cause trouble, so I think you can keep going. But understanding it would be, we have our meetings in the afternoon on a Wednesday. I believe I meant to remember the 2nd or 3rd Wednesday, 2nd, thank you. And they aren't horribly long meetings as long as we all behave. But it's very helpful, especially when you get to hear, because you are very, very prepared and are aware of the things that are coming before this board. So I will pass those out, and I'd love to hear from a bunch of you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item 7 is public comments for items not listed on the agenda. I have 2 speaker cards, but not for this item. So anybody have items that are not on the agenda of the public? Okay, hearing none. Item 8 is the SFPUC report, and given by Allison Castema.
Thank you. Can you all hear me well enough? Great. Thank you. Good evening. Nice to see you all. Happy New Year, ostensibly. I'm going to give the water supply conditions report update, and then I have some updates on our CIP process, just brief updates. So our storage is continually looking good. As you may recall, we are in a mountain tunnel shutdown. This is the last of our long 100-day shutdowns. So if you notice, the percentage of water typically, historically in Hetch Hetchy, that 67.6% number at the top, that's normally where we're at. We're up at 89.7, and that is because we are in that longer shutdown to complete elements of the mountain tunnel project. So again, as mentioned, this is the last of the long 100-day shutdowns, and that should continue until March. We are relying on our local treatment plants, Harry Tracy Treatment Plant on the peninsula and Sonoma Valley Water Treatment Plant in Sonoma to uphold the demands of the system. So overall, again, storage is looking good. We saw it look good last year. It is continuing to look sufficient for needs currently. So across the state, you will also see the same sort of storage situation. Everything seems to be above historical average. Again, that is because we've had good quantity of water coming in last year, this year, and I'll talk a bit about temperatures as well as we get to our consumption at the very end here. So if you didn't hear this, this is our the drought monitor. You probably saw some headlines that we're seeing no drought identified in California by this drought monitor that we doesn't always indicate perfectly what's happening in our area, but does give us a sense of what's happening across the state in terms of arid conditions and precipitation. So first time in a while that we haven't seen any color on this slide. Precipitation up at Hetchy, it continues to be above median. So this, as you can see, we're not in our wettest year. We certainly are not in our driest year. And if you are familiar with upcountry, again, we've got a fairly good, if we're getting median, it is good for water supply and storage levels. These numbers are quite high. We have seen above the median for all of October, November, December. Here we are in January. We are sort of, I'd say, 60% of the way to the median for the month. We do not have anything that we're seeing as wet weather for the next few weeks, so looking pretty good, but we're always watching for this to continue through the early part of this year. Bay Area stations also, again, very similar picture, a good quantity of water we've seen in the first few months of the water year, but we will continue to watch this. Upcountry snowpack, these are numbers based on the snow pillows, the lower elevation snow pillows that are automated. We haven't done snow surveys yet. We're waiting for February 1st, but again, currently at median. And as mentioned, the forecast doesn't show any significant precipitation events in the coming week. Total deliveries here, we have started once again at the beginning of the year, that 149. This is our low point during the year. I will point out that last year, 2025 should be the very top line you're seeing above the yellow. The reason I point this out is, please note, I think we all knew this, that it was quite a cool year in July. We were on track to actually be above our 2015 purchase numbers, consumption numbers, but we had such a cool off in the summer, you can really see where that peak dropped off. And this does go to purchases on the system. It was mentioned the rate range letter has gone out. The wholesale rate is not yet set. This is a very typical process. We start with a rate range letter. We speak with BAWSCA and look at what the budget and CIP turns out to be, and the process continues until May before that is actually set. And again, I'll just mention that we do set a wholesale rate every year, so we do have to get that moving and set so that your agencies also have that information for budgeting purposes, but more information and discussion will be coming. But your agency should have received that rate range letter from BAWSCA. That was distributed earlier this week. Budget and CIP update. This is a very lightweight update. It's not a great amount of detail, but we did want to familiarize everyone and remind them where we are in the process. We are part, of course, of the City and County of San Francisco's budget and CIP process. That means we will do a commission review and then proceed on to the mayor's office and to the Board of Supervisors for approval. Our commission hearings for the 10-year CIP for fiscal year 27 through 36, they are starting. We've had the start of our hearings on the 12th. The water enterprise and Hetchy water-focused hearing is on the 29th. The materials are shared with BAWSCA. They have been receiving those materials. We've been discussing them since December when we provided information, and they've received more information per the contract for that review. And we'll be discussing that further before that hearing and after the hearing. And then adoption of that CIP is planned for early February, currently slated. And I would just say that though there are budgetary constraints, we are maintaining commitment to the planned projects, particularly those in construction. Particularly ones that are in the first 2 years of construction, Mountain Tunnel being one. So regionally, that includes ozone at Smegal, right? So that is for taste and odor compounds. That project is in construction. Backup power at Tesla. If you have been to our Tesla UV facility, it has a flywheel UPS, uninterruptible power supply system. That facility came online in 2011, thank you. I was gonna say 14, but that's not right. 2011, so that system is aging. It's actually a very unique system, but that facility must have power to operate in order to treat the Hetchy source. Chemical facility rehab at Harry Tracy as well. Again, it's a constantly running facility, so we have various upgrade and R&R projects for those facilities. We do have plans for work on, by Division of Safety of Dams, DSOD, California regulators, the regulator of our dams. So work planned for Pilarcitos, San Andreas, and Turner, which is San Antonio out in Smegal. And the Millbrae operations improvements. So our main operations center for Bay Area operations, which is cited in Millbrae. So that is a seismic safety, it's upgrades to facilities, consolidating and upgrading our laboratory, which serves many of the wholesale customers. And then upcountry, you've heard these before, I believe also, moccasin penstock rehabilitation, the O'Shaughnessy outlet works. This includes various replacement of valves that have been sited there since the 1920s when they were originally constructed, moccasin dam and reservoir long-term improvements, and the San Joaquin Pipeline's valve and safe entry project. So that is a lot of work to ensure that if we have to do repairs and maintenance on the San Joaquin pipelines, that we have an ability to do that safely for staff. And I believe that's my last slide. Yeah, happy to answer any questions.
Questions from board members? Okay, Director Snyder.
Thank you. Sorry, thank you. Just a question or a couple of comments here. The chemical facility rehab at Harry Tracy, can you go into a little bit more detail? And the reason I bring that up is just in the last couple of years, there had been an experiment or a training at the sheriff jail, the San Francisco jail, but in San Bruno, and it had ramifications to the adjacent communities. I'm a little concerned hearing that there's chemical work being done when it's Millbrae neighborhoods just downwind of that.
I wouldn't say that I have exact details. We certainly could provide that to you. I will just make mention that, there's a variety of chemicals involved in treatment for achieving drinking water standards. So those are existing chemicals and systems to ensure that the facility operates. But we can follow up with more details on the timing of that work and what that work is.
And to make sure that Central County Fire knows what's up there on that would be very helpful on that. The other thing that I found when I was playing around on your website is that you have probably by now finished the San Andreas pipeline improvement in Yunipesera Park in conjunction with San Bruno. So it was lovely to see that you worked with regional entities on that. And then, of course, you did a project in Millbrae that we were not aware of, which makes perfect sense. They've been increasing security at the facility in Millbrae, and you cut down trees, of which we have a tree ordinance, And what I hear for all the complaints from the residents on that. Clearly, the project is needed, have no problem with that, but better communication would be helpful. And again, I'm going to thank both Steve Ritchie and yourself for coming to the City of Millbrae along with enough of staff. They came to the City of Millbrae City Council meeting this past Tuesday to talk about the project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Pierce.
Thanks, Allison. Could you briefly talk about how the SFPUC prioritizes the projects and their impacts on water rates, just sort of an overview?
Certainly, I can generally add here, and of course, Steve's here if he wanted to add any additional. We have level of service goals that are set for the system. They originated in the Water System Improvement Program, WSIP. They were the standard with which we identified projects on the system to ensure that we were delivering under the WSIP. So that is the priority. That is how we determine what needs to be included, and those cover everything from service reliability to meeting regulations to ensuring staff are safe, environmental concerns, et cetera. So those were adopted in, I believe, December of 23, the updated ones, just to better reflect now what has occurred under WSIP and what continues to be needed. And that does include standards for ensuring a percentage of the wholesale turnouts are basically capable of returning to service within a period of time immediately following a major earthquake. That was one of the major drivers of the WSIP, as you were here, So that is really the standard with which we start from. A variety of items we have a system that is portions of it over 100 years old. That includes the Spring Valley side of the system, which includes Pillar-Cetos, some of those portions of the system on the peninsula and out in the Sunol area. And in addition, the majority of the system was put in place in the 1920s. So WSIP did quite a lot of upgrades to the system, but the need is continuous and not all projects were within WSIP. So that is the major driver, and I think we're always looking at balancing that. We have an affordability policy, as you, I think, heard at a prior presentation. So basically, the capital program is looking at what are the needs of the system to ensure we can achieve the levels of service goals to deliver to those who rely on the system every day, and to make sure that we're managing that for affordability across the 10 years of the program and beyond. I will let you know that when we were looking at the CIP, we were not just looking at 10 years. Our system, we were looking at 20 and onward because there's no end to the need, right? The system doesn't instantaneously, we didn't build a new system. We are maintaining a system that's been in place. Hope that answers.
Yeah, that does. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Director Stone.
Thank you, Chair. I'm curious about what's causing the wholesale rates to jump so significantly. Last year, I believe you projected 1% and 1.2% respectively increases in 27, 2028. Now you just revised that to 7.6% and 7.2%. Can you talk more about what's driving those rate increases?
Yeah, again, as mentioned, when we were set to achieve a higher purchase in the last year. But again, as you know, we had a cooler summer, which really capped out the purchases mainly from the wholesale customers. So those lower demands, the contract has a set budget and a requirement to reimburse for the costs on the system. So when there are lesser water purchases, it means the rates tend to have to go up to compensate. So that is the main driver currently in the rate range as we are looking today. And again, there's more time that is looked at over the next few months.
Yeah, well, it definitely speaks to needing better demand studies and predictions, which I know is just tough, and I know we're talking about that tonight, which is great. I'm concerned of these significant increases. I had my staff revise our own numbers now, what we're looking at, and we were looking at in Palo Alto, 10% increases in 2027 and 2028. Now, because of this, we're now going to be looking at 12% increases and 13% increases respectively. And it's frustrating going back to our constituents and continuously asking them every single year to pay more and more as these water rates consistently increase. So hoping we can get just better answers, more predictability, and challenging to be told one thing one year and then have a significant increase pretty last minute. So thank you for that additional information.
I will add also for the benefit, there is a benefit with the balancing account. So if the rate is set such that we see more sales coming into the summer and we recover some of those purchases against this fiscal year, you're always able to basically have a positive balance owed to the wholesale customers that carries forward for your next rate setting. So there is a benefit to the 1 year that we set, and the balancing account is set in the contract.
Okay, Director Hamilton. Or Director Hardy.
Thank you. Well, I'm not going to talk about the elephant in the room that, we heard all this. But I would like to know, because especially we're mentioning Moccasin, the Penstock, the dam, the Reservoir, O'Shaughnessy Dam. I do know that it was very helpful for me to go on the tour and to see these things and ask questions, because we are making decisions based on a system that you need to have seen. So I was wondering if you could let us know when the next possible tours are. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and it's a great opportunity to spend 2 days really asking those questions and getting the details that various members at all tours tend to ask. So I would just say that we do tours from May to October. We haven't issued any dates yet, but we will be talking with Tom and staff here. In prior years, those tours have been in the May to early June, like the later part of May, early June. We've had sometimes we're able to offer a second tour this year. I believe it was in late September, early October. Yeah. So that's the goal. I would say we're looking at those dates. We will not have them probably for you until we'll probably be talking in February to March about what the dates are and seeing if we could select ones that fit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Stevenson.
Yes, I'm just curious with the rate increase and the timing of when that information was available. Has anybody gone back to the affordability studies to see what that does?
So again, the affordability policy, so what is happening right now is our capital improvement plan, and that is part of discussions now in January to early February. Adoption of that is slated hopefully to occur in February. Once that is set, that feeds into the rate model and starts to really solidify where things will land. So and again, we do spend time with BAWSCA to talk about what those rates are, et cetera. And I will mention that during all of these presentations, we do look at affordability across the CIP and the budget. So that is part of the presentation and materials that are presented.
Okay, thank you. Director Nash.
And sorry, I just add what Steve was saying. The rate range letter does have some of that detail in it on affordability. Sorry.
So if I understood correctly, the rate increases are really tied to a lesser water purchases. And I'm wondering how you suggest we message that, given that we're trying to have the conservation. It seems to me that does not support having the public conserve water.
I would say this is always, having done communications in water systems, this is always the challenge of, we particularly face it during droughts where we ask folks to use less, and yet we know the costs of the system remain the same. So it is a challenge. I think part of what we do try to talk to is the fact that we have to maintain the system in order to ensure delivery. And we try and offer it. Certainly, I think BAWSCA maintains conservation programs for your various agencies where you can opt in, San Francisco for our retail customers. That is really where we put our, a certain amount of effort is to try and offer customer programs and rebate programs to support those who would like to aim to reduce their bill. We do have benefits, and a number of agencies have such lower use that our bills do achieve a certain amount lower than some other areas because we're using less water. So always a challenge, I would say. I don't have a perfect answer for how to solve it, but.
Thank you. And then I was wondering if you could comment, I think this is an appropriate time to ask for a comment on what Dave handed out as far as the fact that this is a surprise with the increase in rates. And can you make any comments on this, the questions he asked?
I don't have that in front of me, so I don't have the exact detail. I'm not sure we were given a copy. I think it again matches the, we do, rate projections are based on what we understand, what we look at in terms of projected purchases, and we have to we're going to see some fluctuation there. We see some years where purchases are above projections. There's been a number of years where the wholesale balancing account was actually owed to the wholesale customers. You may remember this, maybe a year or two ago, we were at almost $80 million owed to the wholesale customers because we set a rate based on purchase projections. They're all set on costs of the system against purchase projections. And so when the wholesale customers purchased more, you ended up with a balance in the balancing account owed to you, and that helped to keep, that balances your rate across those years. We use that. Again, the rate range letter we're looking at now has almost $5 million under the current, where we are in this period of time in the year and what we're seeing with purchases, is almost $5 million that the wholesale customers would owe to the system because those purchases didn't match up with what the projection was. So the balancing account helps in both ways, and in many times we have seen it be basically a balance owed to the wholesale customers to offset your next year rate.
Thank you.
Okay, any other question from board members? I have 3 speaker cards for this item. Number 1's Dave Warner. You have 2 minutes after you get up there.
So first, I just thank Allison for the candid discussion and explanations. To me, though, the answer is very scary, and we're now at just the beginning, that if this price increase is because of a demand decline, have you looked at what the SFPUC is projecting for BAWSCA demand going forward? I think they're using the mid-range that we'll talk about in a minute, or in an agenda item, but it's very likely there's a lower bounds, and if we come anywhere, if we continue along that path, we're going to see over and over and over again these kind of increases. And to me, one of the most interesting things is they can't reduce costs. I would hope that there's some way to reduce costs, but I think the only way would be through capital projects. But there isn't much way that they're giving us. And so I think it makes it all that more important to start looking at contingency plans of, okay, what happens if that lower end of the demand range materializes? How are we going to manage that? Can we really afford to do all these projects? Maybe we can't afford not to do, but we should be having that conversation with the idea that here's what the cost might look like and here's the choices we have to take. Because certainly at this late stage, we don't have much choice, but there are probably a bunch more of these big rate increases in our future if demand continues on the downward slope, which seems to be the indication. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, Peter Dreckmeyer.
Thank you. Nice to see you all. Peter Dreckmeyer, Policy Director for Yosemite Rivers Alliance, formerly Tuolumne River Trust. I'm passing around a handout. I don't have copies for everyone, so maybe you could look at it and pass it along. When I'm done, I'll start one on this end as well. But I think this has been a very good discussion so far, and I'll be a little bit repetitive. The first side of my handout shows the comparison of the wholesale rate projections from last year, actually from last May, versus what we just received last week from the SFPUC, and you've heard about those numbers. It's interesting, you know, the new BAWSCA demand study was based on an assumption that rates would basically reflect inflation. They would be parallel. And what we've already seen is a large increase in rates just over the past year. On the back side, is the water existing projected debt service. So it shows what the debt service is right now and what's projected for the 10-year capital plan. This is a $12.5 billion 10-year capital plan. And I believe the number originally was 16 billion, and staff managed to bring it down, which is a positive, but we have to wonder, are those other projects going to be coming back at some point? But what you'll see is there's a line here for net revenues, and it's actually very quite close to where the debt service is going to be. So this is going to be very problematic. And then the last slide is also from last week's budget hearing, and it shows, actually it's hard to see on this one, but it shows that the projected wholesale sales are down 10 million gallons, or 10 million gallons per day since last year's projection. And I'm guessing this probably has something to do with the demand study. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is Mark Shannon.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Shahenian. I'm here on behalf of the Sierra Club this evening. You received notice earlier this week of a surprise 7% rate increase. As the two previous speakers mentioned, it's not a surprise. It's no accident that we're here. The SFPUC has been quite aggressive in its spending plans. There's a $500 million campus going in Millbrae. There's another $400 million campus that won't hit the wholesale customers going in San Francisco. And that is a result of the over-projections of demand that BAWSCA has put out over the past 25 years. If you look back at those projections, and it's in your packets, I think, it averages about a 50% over-projection by the time you get 15 years past the projection itself, past the date of the projection. And so what happens then is SFPUC takes those numbers and builds its CIP off of those. It says we have lots more money coming in from lots more demand, we can go build a big capital plan. And if what we're seeing now happens and demand keeps dropping, and Sierra Club has a projection that I've sent to all of you about where demand will go, we think it'll go to about 145 MGD for the BAWSCA region as a whole, not just the SFPUC number. And we're concerned that there's this tendency to take more water from the environment and more money from ratepayers' pockets to and these demand projections feed right into that. And so we just ask you to be very considerate of where this demand projection goes. We'll, of course, comment after the next piece, but just keep that in mind.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on PUC report? Okay, the next item of business is consent calendar. Any questions on, or Director Nash?
Thank you. I think this is the appropriate place to note that on the attendance report, it lists my attendance for the last meeting as teleconference rather than present. Thank you.
Okay. Let's make the correction. Okay, Director Bro?
With the correction of Director Nash's attendance, I'd give you a motion to approve the consent calendar as submitted.
Okay, is there
Second.
a second? The second is Director Manalo. I'll get your name right. Okay, any further discussion? Director Showalter.
Another sort of clerical error. I should have a little telephone by my name for the November meeting because I called in from the National League of Cities meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
So if we could just have those corrected, no.
Friendly amendment, so.
The maker of the motion is happy to accept that amendment.
Thank you very much.
So we just got a little switch there. Okay, any other comments about the consent calendar? Before the vote, any comments from the public? I don't think so. Okay, roll call.
Director Andrews.
Aye.
Director Bro.
Yes and yes.
Director Chambers.
Yes.
Director Cohen. Director Duncan.
Aye.
Director Hamilton.
Aye.
Director Hardy.
Aye.
Director Jordan.
Yes.
Director Kiesel. Director Lincoln.
Aye.
Director Manalo.
Aye.
Director Mellinger.
Aye.
Director Mickelson. Yes. Director Nash.
Yes.
Director Piccolotti.
Aye.
Director Pierce.
Yes.
Director Ragsdale.
Yes.
Director Schneider.
Aye.
Director Showalter.
Yes?
Director Stevenson.
Yes.
Director Stone.
Yes.
Director Vella.
Yes.
Director Weed. And Director Zichterman.
Abstain.
Okay. Motion passes?
It does.
Okay.
It does.
Next item is item 10, the action calendar, potential one-time payment to CalPERS to reduce BAWSCA's unfunded pension liability. Christina Tang, would you like to make your presentation?
Yes. Thank you, Chair Chambers. Good evening, everyone. So last spring, the BBC asked staff to evaluate BAWSCA's fiscal situation at the conclusion of fiscal year 24-25 to consider making an additional discretionary payment to CalPERS in order to reduce BAWSCA's unfunded liability. So just to provide you some context, the additional one-time payments are allowed by CalPERS at any time in any amount. And any additional payments made will not require any additional payments to be made in any future year. So based on the latest CalPERS actuarial report, as of June 30, 2024, BAWSCA's unfunded liability was $1.2 million, estimated to be paid off by 2043 based on a discount rate of 6.8%. However, because CalPERS had an exceptional investment return in fiscal year 24-25 at 11.6%, therefore CalPERS currently projects BAWSCA's June 30, 2025 unfunded liability to be reduced to $928,000, which is about $300,000 less. So this is a great example that unfunded liability is an actuarial value, which fluctuates over time based on a number of reasons, including CalPERS actuarial assumptions and its own investment performance. So BAWSCA's current general reserve balance is $1.7 million, which is about 31% of the annual operating budget, which includes approximately $500,000 unspent fund from fiscal year 24-25. So at the BPC meeting last month, staff presented 5 payment options to the BPC for discussions. And like Director Hardy mentioned earlier, based on the opinion poll result, the committee narrowed down these payment options from 5 to 3 options, ranging from no additional payment to $300,000, as shown on the slide. So under option 1, no additional payment, based on the current CalPERS amortization schedule, BAWSCA's unfunded liability would be paid off by 2042, with the current funded ratio at 87.5%. So option 2 got the most support from the BPC. So if BAWSCA chooses to make that one-time additional payment of $200,000 funded by the reserves, then our general reserve to budget ratio would be brought down to 27% within our current budget guideline of between 20 to 35% of the operating budget. And the liability would be considered as funded at 91.4%. The present value savings is estimated to be $32,000 to the agency. Some BPC members also showed support of making a more substantial payment. That's why we included option 3, the one-time payment of $300,000 for discussions. So with that, BAWSCA's unfunded liability, the funding would be expected to be paid off by 2034, so 8 years faster than CalPERS default schedule. Under that approach, BAWSCA's general reserve to the budget ratio would be brought down to 25%, which is still within our policy guideline. And the present value savings under this approach would be estimated $46,000. So the recommendation is that the board approve a funding approach out of the 3 options presented. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, before I ask for a motion, I think we really need to have a discussion on this so we know what should be in that motion. So I guess we should start out with Director Nash. Do you want to say anything yet? Okay, Director Bellinger.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to signal my inclination for the $300,000 contribution. I recall the discussion that we had last year on this topic. It remains concerning to me that our pension liability will not be paid off until 2042. Obviously, there is the question of the appropriate levels of reserves to maintain. 25% is a number I am comfortable with, and I believe that this contribution will help to de-risk the agency from future economic shocks. I will say that while I am not an economist and I am not a financial forecaster, I don't have a particularly rosy outlook right now. And given that we are on the hook for any failures on PERS to meet their 6.8% rate of return, I think that trying to pay down this liability now is a wise idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Snyder.
Thank you. For my part, being on the policy committee, I too would like to go with option 3. We were trying to be reflective of where everybody else is coming from. So I think for me, I think ultimately I said option 2, but I'd be okay with option 3. It's really, I love paying debt down as fast as I can possibly do it. But, we're trying to be fair to everybody on that.
Okay, Director Hamilton.
I'm kind of in the same boat of between the 2 options because, like Director Bellinger, I don't have a particularly rosy outlook for the economy in the near future, which makes me simultaneously want to de-risk the agency, but also to keep our reserves up. So I lean toward the more conservative approach of 2, but I would be fine with 3, frankly.
Okay, any other directors want to put in anything? Okay, Director Weed.
I think his mic's working. Your mic's not working.
Okay, and the elements of the estimate are changing. We have a 2034 target, and because of the market, we're on track, or ahead of track. But we've adjusted the estimates for longer lifespan, and we dropped our discount rate to 6.5%, and would like to see it maybe go down to 6% as we go into the near term. So whatever estimate you have now, beware, it's going to become more problematic as people live longer. Thank you.
Any other comments? Director Pierce? Director Pierce?
Yes, thank you. I think one of the reasons that I had encouraged the 200,000 is because I've remembered the challenge that we've had going back and forth in terms of maintaining reserve. And so that was just one of the factors that came in. So of the choices, rather than taking the lowest and rather than taking the highest, I went more towards the middle because I was concerned about making sure that if we needed our reserves, which we have periodically depended upon for accomplishing programmatic elements that we needed to do, or if there were problems. And so I just wanted to give that perspective to the people who weren't in the room for the policy discussion.
Okay, Director Mellinger?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If there are no further comments, I'm ready with a motion.
Okay. The only thing I'd like to say is that realize, as I learned tonight, we're expecting to see a big major rate increase next year. And do we want to spend that money now here where it's not recoverable, or do we want to carry it in the reserves? You know, I think we could, I initially was for the 200,000, but, or option 2. But it's really up to this board, not up to me. So, your motion is for?
Option 3.
Option 3. Is there a second to the motion for option 3? Okay, Director Weed seconds
I will second option 3.
Director Weed seconds options 3. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call.
Could you just do a brief call for public comment, just in case?
Okay, public comment. Any public comment on this item?
Okay, thanks.
Not seeing no public comment, roll call. Thank you. Keep me honest.
Director Andrews. Director Bro.
Yes and yes.
Director Chambers.
No. No.
Director Cohen.
Aye.
Director Duncan.
Aye.
Director Hamilton.
Aye.
Director Hardy.
Aye.
Director Jordan.
No.
Director Kiesel. No. Director Lincoln.
No. No.
Director Manalo.
Aye.
Director Mellinger.
Aye.
Director Mickelson. Director Nash.
No.
Director Piccolotti. Director Pierce.
No.
Director Ragsdale.
Yes.
Director Schneider.
Yes.
Director Showalter.
Yes?
Director Stevenson.
No.
Director Stone.
No.
Director Vella.
No.
Director Weed.
Aye.
Director Zichterman.
No.
I have 14 to 10 in favor.
Okay, I'll take your report.
All right.
Okay, 14 ayes, 10 noes, motion passes, so we will do the 300,000. Okay. Next item is reports and discussion, and Ms. Tang has the first two, and I think we'll ask for public comments after, for each speaker. So go ahead and do your presentation.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Chambers. So BAWSCA has been closely monitoring the agency's unfunded pension and OPEB liabilities, and we also reported to the board on the yearly basis. So this slide summarizes BAWSCA's pension liability as indicated in CalPERS' latest actuarial valuation report. Since we just talked about it earlier, I'm not going to repeat everything, but I do like this slide because it explains how the unfunded liability is calculated. It basically represents the liability of services that have been earned but not funded. So as requested by the board, BAWSCA also updated the board about SFPUC's pension liability funded status along with our annual report. So SFPUC participates in their cost-sharing defined benefits pension plan administered by San Francisco Employees Retirement System based on pay-as-you-go. In addition, they participate in the replacement benefit plan for the retirement allowance exceeding IRS 415 limits. So as of June 30, 2024, San Francisco's net pension liability was $3.9 million based on a discount rate of 7.2%. and SFPUC's share was about 7.4% of San Francisco's unfunded liability, or approximately $291 million. So in fiscal year 24-25, San Francisco's share of SFPUC's share of San Francisco's contribution to their retirement system was $48.5 million, which is approximately 2% of their annual operating budget of $2 billion. So on the OPEB side, BAWSCA has been participating in CalPERS SERPT since April 2014 to pre-fund our OPEB obligations. So BAWSCA's contributions made to SERPT allows BAWSCA to generate investment earnings for future retiree benefits and ultimately to reduce our OPEB liabilities. So BAWSCA has been fully funding our annual OPEB expenses. Our 25-26 operating budget includes a contribution to the SERPT of $85,000, which has been deposited last year. As of November 30th, 2025, our unfunded OPEB liability was $1.5 million, which is estimated to be paid off by 2036, based on a discount rate of 5.5%. And this slide summarizes our SERPT account status as of November 30th, 2025. So it shows our total contributions made, the program management expenses being charged, and also investment earnings to date. So over the past 11 years, BAWSCA has accumulated total assets of over $1.6 million at the average annual rate of return of 6.06%, circled in red. So I just want to point out, so as according to SERPT, the longer the investment in their trust, the funds would gradually align to their expected 20-year rate of return of 6.1%. So and so far, SERPT's rate has outperformed LAIF. So as of November 30th, 2025, our net OPEB liability was 1.5, which at the funded ratio of 52%. Due to the long-term nature of OPEB, so BAWSCA has chosen to use a discount rate of 5.5% for our recent actuarial valuation. So just want to point out, so basically the lower the discount rate is, the higher the annual OPEB expenses and also the unfunded liability would be. But meantime, it helps reduce our future unfunded liability risks from the overly optimistic assumptions. So just similar to the pension side, so we are also reporting a status of SFPUC's OPEB liability funded status. So they participate in the single employer defined benefit plan based on pay-as-you-go, and in addition, they also contribute to the retiree health care trust fund. So as of June 30, 2024, SFPUC's net OPEB liability was $3.9 billion, estimated to be paid off by 2045, based on a discount rate of 7%. So SFPUC's share was about 6.7% of San Francisco's net OPEB liability, or $253.1 million. In 24-25, SFPUC's share of San Francisco's contribution to the trust fund was $19.4 million, or approximately 1% of their operating budget of $2 billion. So about a year ago, BAWSCA consulted with our auditors, Siobhan and Associates, and also legal counsel to understand the potential risk of San Francisco's unfunded liability to BAWSCA's member agencies. So BAWSCA's auditor and the legal counsel have confirmed that San Francisco's unfunded liability is an obligation of San Francisco, and it's not BAWSCA agency's liability. So there are no accounting guidelines would require BAWSCA agencies to report San Francisco's unfunded liability on their financial statements. So BAWSCA agency, we pay our share of SFPUC's operation expenses, including their active employee and retirees' retirement benefits through the wholesale water rate. Based on the WSA, the wholesale customer only pay for their share of the expenses associated with San Francisco's operations from which they receive benefits. And the wholesale customer, their share of San Francisco's labor cost, including OPEB and the pension liabilities, pension benefits, would be calculated based on the terms as specified in the WSA. So BAWSCA will continue monitor SFPUC's unfunded liability and will report back in the next year's annual report. That concludes my remarks.
Okay, any questions from the board members on 11A, 11B? Any, Director Weed?
Microphone.
Yes. First, when we took on the OPEB, recognized the OPEB liability, the response was to do the measurement, the analysis every year. And I believe we may be still doing that. The legal requirement is every other year. So suggest that given this is such a long-term investment, that every other year might reduce the staff load and the analysis in half, cut it in half.
Got it. Yeah, so far we have been doing this every year. So we are a small agency, there are 9 of us, so any small personnel changes could cause a big impact on the liability. So that's why we have been doing the valuation every year, but we are open to suggestions.
Okay. And second, although we do not have a direct liability on San Francisco's OPEB, we have an indirect liability. And when you're looking at a number approaching $4 billion that has to be paid for by operations, we're 2/3 of that operation. Now, San Francisco's numbers have varied dramatically over the years. They first reported to us that they were using a 4.4% discount rate, which is the IRS standard for the private industry, but we're not funding it. Now, when they came in and began to fund it, they upped the discount rate from 4.4 to 7%, nearly cutting their liability in half and bringing it down to a mere several $billion. Thank you for keep monitoring it and recognize, and I encourage you to do, if necessary, a back of the envelope analysis of how much it's going to cost in rates to pay that off. Thank you.
Okay, Director Snyder.
Thank you. I think my question's more to our policy chair. I've been spending more of my attention on capital improvement, but I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into operational costs. And I'm learning more about exactly where is the line between BAWSCA and what BAWSCA is responsible for, and then what the individual member agencies are. But is there a place where when SFPUC is doing operational work, it has a direct impact on any one individual BAWSCA member, or there's a shared responsibility on that? I wasn't going to bring this up tonight because I'm just learning about it. There was some significant high-pressure water pipe work done that may or may not have had an impact and caused 3 failures in Millbrae just recently on that. So how operations works right where SFPUC meets the member agencies on that. So maybe that's a better subject for a future policy committee. And I'm working with the staff of Millbrae to try to get a better understanding of what caused what and who's responsible. Thank you.
Noted, and I made a note.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from board members? Any questions for the public on 11A, 11B, which is just these 2 things? Seeing none, next presentation is 11C, the Regional Water Demand and Conservation Study. Ms. McPherson?
Good evening, Board of, sorry, give me a second. Okay, good evening, Board of Directors. Thank you for the opportunity to present the results of the Regional Water Demand and Conservation Study. Every 5 years, BAWSCA facilitates an update to this regional study, which produces agency-specific water demand projections over a 25-year planning horizon. These updated projections are useful for local and regional planning efforts, including the Urban Water Management Plans and BAWSCA Strategy 2050. The baseline demand projections incorporate demographic projections that have already been approved by each of your agencies through things like citywide or water supply master plans, as well as approved developments. The approach and the assumptions that are used in the demand study also comply with state law under the Urban Water Management Planning Act. Specifically, they incorporate projected population, climate, and other social, economic, and demographic projections. They also are developed in coordination with local and regional land use authorities. And finally, they represent unconstrained demand, which is demand absent water use restrictions. I do want to note that the demand projections presented in the final report are not the final projections or official projections for any individual agency. Agencies tend to not consider these projections final until they've been adopted by your governing bodies. That typically happens through the urban water management plans, which are not due for another 6 months. And in that time, agencies may adjust their demand projections and assumptions. So for that reason, I would direct you to each of your agencies for the official planning forecasts. So the demand study employs a hybrid demand modeling methodology that incorporates both econometric regression model techniques as well as end-use conservation accounting. The econometric modeling describes the influence of key explanatory variables on historical water demand. Those explanatory variables include things like climate, the price of water, water use restrictions, other things like that. And then the econometric models then forecast future demand based on specific values for these explanatory variables. Next, we quantify savings from both passive conservation impacts, that would be through codes or regulations that, for example, limit the maximum flow requirements for appliances and fixtures, as well as active conservation measures, which are things like rebate programs or incentives to get customers to use less water. The demand projections include locally specific climate and use that to estimate how that will impact future demand. And then finally, we conduct scenario analysis to account for the uncertainties in water demand forecasting. So this graph shows historical water demand, total water demand, and the shaded bars represent drought years. Water demand is projected to increase gradually over the planning horizon. This first line represents total demand absent additional conservation. With passive conservation only, demand is projected to be 222 million gallons per day, or MGD, by 2050. And with passive and active conservation, it's expected to be 222 MGD. The demand in 2050 projected by this study is about 13% less than was projected for 2045 in the 2020 demand study. There's a couple of reasons for the reduction. First, the current models were calibrated using water use from 2021, 22, and 23, which was during and just coming out of drought restrictions, so total water use was down. So it's calibrated based on lower water use than previous years. Additionally, the projected growth in population is primarily expected in the multifamily sector, while the area of land available for housing is expected to remain constant. This means that the region is expected to be more dense over time, and higher density housing is associated with lower per account water use. So we can see that lower per count water use in this slide here. This shows the historical total demand with the historical population, and in the dotted and dashed lines we have the projected population and projected demand. So while population is expected to increase by 2050 86% over the mid-1980s, demand is expected to decrease by 15% over that same time frame. Residential per capita water use is also trending down over time. As you can see during the shaded years, per capita water use tends to decrease during years with drought restrictions. It tends to increase in years between those drought restrictions, but has not tended to rebound to pre-drought levels. The current projected daily per capita water use, or GPCD, gallons per person per day, is expected to be 44 gallons per person per day by 2050, which is 23% less than the lowest on record, which was just a couple years ago after the drought at 55 gallons per person per day. So after the demand study and in preparation for their urban water management plans, BAWSCA collects purchase projections from the agencies. Through 2050, total demand or purchase projections are expected to be 148 million gallons per day. That's well below the 184 MGD supply assurance. Now, there is inherent uncertainty in water demand forecasting. There are things that agencies do not have control over, and we cannot predict the future. I wish I had a crystal ball. We don't know how many people are going to move in and out of your service areas. We don't know if you're going to have a hotter or cooler economy. One thing I hear about in the news quite frequently is data centers. Are they going to be built? Where will they be built? How much water and energy are they going to require? We also don't know what new technologies might be available in the future and whether they will be adopted at scale. So there's a lot of things that we just don't know. So in 2022, to account for this uncertainty, BAWSCA incorporated scenario development in its demand study and it's become sort of a standard practice moving forward. This provides a practical framework to test assumptions about these key factors influencing water demand and evaluate what the future might look like under different conditions. So BAWSCA and its consultant Hazen Sawyer worked with the member agencies, external stakeholders, and the SFPUC to develop 5 alternative future scenarios. We met with them over a series of months and group workshops and one-on-one meetings, and we collected feedback on their preferred alternative assumptions as well as alternative data sources. We took that feedback and we organized them into 4 main categories that align with water demand modeling, and those are shown here. They're demographic and development, socioeconomic, conservation and pricing, and climate and other. So we took that feedback, like I said, and we created high and low ends, the high boundaries, excuse me. And then we also moderated in between there to create this envelope of potential future conditions. So that the very high end, we estimate, based on these assumptions, which you can read more in the final report, that demand would be up to 266 MGD by 2050. The moderated high has it at 258 MGD. If we were to take historical growth trends in the demographics, we would estimate about 206 MGD, and at the moderated low, 175 MGD, and at the very low end, 157. So as you can see, there's a really wide range of potential futures that we might see. Another thing that we, water suppliers and water managers don't have control over is when there will be drought and drought restrictions. BAWSCA and Hazen Sawyer wanted to see if we could leverage the econometric models that were created to simulate potential future drought restrictions and how customers might respond. We do know that we are not going to get the same juice out of the squeeze moving forward so customers are not necessarily going to respond or be able to respond to a future drought the way they have in the past with demand hardening. So the purpose of this ongoing task, it's going to continue over the next couple months, is to, again, simulate the impacts of future drought restrictions, how customers in the region might respond, and what we might be able to expect. So in conclusion, the regional demand projections are expected to increase gradually or only slightly. That growth in population and demographics is really tempered by active and conservation measures. The BAWSCA projected purchases from the regional water system are expected to be below the 184 MGD supply assurance, and BAWSCA is going to continue to work with Hazen on these alternative scenarios to understand the uncertainty in and demand projections. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions from the board? Okay, Director Snyder. Oh, and then Director Andrews. Oh, wait. Director Snyder first, followed by
No, okay, she's not. Director Zickerman.
Director Zichterman first.
And
Thank you, Chair. I just want to commend the staff on this huge monumental effort. And I've been somewhat, I don't know if critical is the right word, but commenting, are we being overly conservative? And the more I think about it, I kind of straddle at Stanford because I manage the water systems, the engineering operations aspects, and the financial business aspects. So maybe that's a bit of a unique perspective from some of you. But one thing water managers cannot do, and that is underestimate our demand. Does that make us mentally, psychologically more conservative? Well, maybe, but we've got to be conservative. And when you look at the last 25 years of declining demand, a simple mathematic approach would be just continue that line. So we're going to continue to go down. But when I start thinking about what's caused that reduction, it's really been about the tremendous conservation efforts, the retrofitting. What we don't know is, are we about a third of the way through those retrofits of indoor plumbing fixtures and lawns? Or are we 2/3 of the way? But at some point, the ability, because of hardened demand, is going to end, and growth is then going to turn that line back upward. I think we've got a balance of that here, and I think it's reflected well. So Danielle, good results. I support them, and I think we can base our planning on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Andrews.
Thank you for the report. I was curious to know if Hazen can give us recommendations on how to manage data centers that come into our community, because we're starting to see more requests for data centers, but we don't have a lot of information on how to manage these requests or how to balance community benefits. I'm seeing some cities getting way more community benefits than Hayward, and I would like to have some kind of guide to reference and give to staff. I also think that there is a little bit of confusion on how cities are looking at data centers versus data processing centers. So is there any way we can add that to the scope, or is this already part of the scope as we look at demand? Because demand from residential versus a data center is totally different.
I can talk to Hazen. I'm not sure that they would be the most appropriate. I do think our water management representative group would be an excellent venue to have these conversations. That way, the people on the ground at the staff level reviewing these proposed developments can speak to how they're communicating with those developers. There is a lot of uncertainty, and I think we're all really interested in gaining more information, and I think that group is a great information sharing opportunity.
Let me say one other thing, Danielle. In a couple of agenda items, we'll be talking about next year's work plan and suggestions that you might have for next year's work plan. This isn't in the scope for Hazen right now, but it's certainly something that you could mention then, or we can remember to write that down for a suggestion at that time. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Director Hardy.
Oh, I'll just piggyback onto that and tell Director Andrews, we have 55 in our city large, so come talk to me, and I can share some of what we have done over the water. But what I was mostly looking at was page 65 in the report. It said only the third bullet point under the key findings, it says only 4 out of 23 agencies are projected to exceed their urban water use objectives. Yes, I had to double look that up. At any point between 2025 and 2050. My first question is, do they know who they are? Not that I'm going to call anybody out here, but given what we were told about why one reason there is a concern in having to raise rates on everybody because we had a very mild July, maybe we should tell these 4 agencies they can pay for it. Just teasing. But along those same lines is what Director Zuckerman was saying about, I see a lot less volatility down the road and there will be a hardening of what the least we can do as far as water usage. And my concern is we also didn't know we were going to have AI and did not see that coming down the road as far as the water concerns and the need. So when we look at this to me is really hard to predict, because I do think we're going to get down to a point where you can't go any lower per person for reality-wise. And that when we look at what we're being asked to do for housing, we have some realities and some competing concerns. And I think it's important for us to at least be aware of those and look at these numbers and realize, as you said, your crystal ball's broken, ours is non-existent. The reality is we don't know, and I think being careful in how we predict these is important, because I don't see us being able to keep a downward trend for forever either. That's not going to be possible. And especially if our area continues to grow and if we continue to be asked to be putting in more housing and our economy stays strong in this area and we are still adding jobs. So I think being very careful about the way we look at this, but also it's a very hard sell to our residents. Yes, you did such a good job of conserving water, and we're so sorry because of that. We have to raise your rates. But it's because there is a certain, I think we need to make real clear to everyone there is a certain cost for the system, for that hard piping that we have and to maintain that. And I think that's an important way to look at it, that this is how much the system costs and this is how much we have. And we could sit and fight over water and the cost as long as we have water. And that's something we don't always control also. Thank you.
Okay, Director Showalter, followed by Director Stone. Microphone.
I'd like to talk and have a little bit of a discussion and ask Danielle about what are the goals of this water demand study? What are we going to do with it? And one of the things by California law that we need to do about it with it is we need to produce our urban water management plans. Now, basically, your urban water management plan is a plan that says if we build out our zoning to the top of our zoning, do we have water for it? That's the first question we need to be able to answer in the water management plan. But that is very different than how much water will we really be using in any time frame. So I think it's very important for us to have in our mind that there are different uses for different demand evaluations, and there are different quantities. For instance, I want Mountain View to have, we want to go by the book. We want to do the demand study for all of our zoning, that if it happens, we'll know what that is. And we'll do some planning of what is the additional water supply we might want to have, or how we would deal with droughts. We have a recycled water system, which we think is very valuable. It's drought proof. But you don't pull the plug on building those projects until you have a much better frame of reference about how much water you're really going to need versus what's in your water management plan. So I want to bring up that discrepancy because I think it's key, and I'd really like to hear our staff kind of weigh in on that. Thank you.
Yes, I agree. That is the baseline requirement for the urban water management plans, as well as the annual water supply and demand assessments. That is, part of why we do this scenario analysis to track over time, how are things actually developing in your service areas. And the excellent thing about the tool that was created for each of your agencies is that you have a tool to adjust it as time goes on and you see those developments being built or not. This only time can tell whether, things develop as they were projected.
Director Stone, followed by Director Pierce.
Thank you, Chair. I am glad to see that we're working with our consultants to develop the supplemental methodologies to be able to simulate impacts of future drought and the likely possibility of further demand hardening. But what's the timeline on that? You mentioned a few months, but given we're going to have to work on our own water management plans in our cities, can you give us a better understanding about the timeline on when we're going to then see an updated water demand study with those changes incorporated?
Just a couple years.
So there won't be an update to the demand study. This will be a supplemental document. It's essentially another alternative scenario. It's also a regional scenario. It won't be agency specific, similar to the alternative scenarios that were included in the demand study. But as Director Showalter mentioned, what the urban water management plans and the the annual water supply, demand, and assessments require is projecting water use based on projected population, climate, and other demographics. So it does not include projecting drought restrictions.
So then maybe a question for our CEO on process. Do we ever formally adopt these demand studies? I mean, what's the process if we have concerns, objections to the projections? Because I don't think I'm as optimistic as some others tonight about the accuracy of this, especially if things like the drought task that we're looking at is not incorporated.
Well, what I would first say is that you're not adopting this. This is a staff level exercise. You've adopted a work plan for us to conduct this with the cooperation of all the agency staff. And it's information to the agency staff that's useful in developing their urban water management plans primarily. This is a discussion item. I'm happy to hear your thoughts in the discussion. The demand study is finalized. It's published and it's on our website. The one thing that I will say is that we do these demand studies very often. I think we did one 3 years ago. We'll do another one within the next 5 years. Finally, I would say that every projection is wrong. And we just don't know which way it's going to be wrong and how far it's going to be wrong. So I think that's why we continue to do these studies. So this is the study that we have now. These assumptions are the assumptions that were agreed upon by the agency staff. And I don't want to step on Danielle's toes because she's worked hard on this. So I'll let you add. It looks like you want to add something. So.
Well, I was going to add that you will adopt Palo Alto's, you individually will adopt Palo Alto's urban water management plans, which will incorporate, the demand projections shown in here are an aggregate of each of the agencies. And no one agency gets to tell another agency what assumptions to make for their demand projections. And so that's why BAWSCA didn't tell them these are the assumptions you need to apply.
Right. No, I understand that. It's just the implications of this is so significant, and our Sierra Club representative tonight talked about kind of how poor we have been on doing these projections over the last several decades. We seem to be significantly off. I can't recall the number, but I'm sure we'll hear it again during public comment because it was alarming. I'm also concerned about just the real world implications on costs for all of our consumers. I mean, we just heard tonight from the SFPUC because their projections, based on their projections, because we had a cool July, their rate increases are going up from 1% to 7%. How do I sell that to my ratepayers because we had a cooler month, you're now going to see a 3% increase on our water rates. I think that's really challenging. I also just really think we should also learn more from the Sierra Club. I reviewed their correspondence materials to the policy committee and appreciated their representative being here tonight. Their own innovative demand model that is incorporating the expectation of future droughts shows that BAWSCA demand to be more at 145 MGD in 2045, far below even the lower bounds of what we're showing at about 155. I don't think it's very often when environmentally friendly policies are also the most fiscally responsible decisions, and kind of yet here we are. If we were to accept a lower projection, we can preserve water for the environment and save our ratepayers money. I know we don't have, of course, so much. These costs are really driven by costs from the by the SFPUC and all these fixed costs. But when we are projecting out much more significant demand than I think is necessary, or at least having an organization like the Sierra Club providing some pretty credible data to show that we might be pretty far off, I'm really concerned that we are further investing in what's just going to be future larger fixed costs that all of our customers are going to be paying for decades without really questioning the data. So those are my big concerns with this, and I appreciate the work, but also frustrated with the process that there could be serious concerns, questions, objections to this, and the response is we just have to accept it and address it then at our city level, which is very challenging. I think here is the power collectively of all of our agencies to be able to do that, not in our individual agencies. So thank you.
So just one very quick response, because I know it was a slide at the BPC and I don't think it made it as a slide here, but the consultant that we use is doing this work for many other water agencies and districts throughout the state of California and elsewhere, as I understand it. Highly awarded, very regular, very standard methodology for demand studies. And so we've consulted with them. We've read the correspondence as well from the Sierra Club, and we're confident that the work that was done by Hazen was the highest quality work that we could expect.
Okay.
Chair Chambers.
Director Pierce, followed by Director Jordan.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I think one of the things that I appreciated your comments, Tom, about the demand hardening, and what I found helpful was the fact that this was a range of data collections, and you could track all of these things for all of our agencies. All of our agencies participated, gave the information that they wanted to be included in this, and then will act upon it as they feel is important. One of the things that I found most interesting was if you look at the change in the projections and the impact of drought. Now, unfortunately, none of us have the crystal ball to say when the next drought is. And so I think it makes it very difficult when you're saying our projections were off by 50%. Well, if we hadn't had those droughts, our projections would have been really perfect. But that's not how it works. So I think you gather the data, all of our agencies will then look at how to use this in doing their urban water management plans. And none of us are in control of the amount of housing that the state tells us to do. None of us are in charge of how the economy is going to go. You can zone how you want, you can plan, and then you do the best you can. And so I want to say, Danielle, thank you for all the time that you spent on this. I thought the consultant did a great job, and this is so much more detailed and nuanced than what we've had in the past. And so I think we're on the proper direction, and it's a tool that can then be given to our agencies, and I really appreciate that.
Okay, Director Jordan, followed by Director Mellinger.
Thank you, Chair. So I also wanted to commend the staff Danielle and Hazen, for it's great to have these projections that recognize the upsides, the downsides, and give us some knobs, I guess, where we can sort of project what will cause that, and recognizing that usage reduction is still occurring, which will flatten the growth. I was surprised to see the expectation that data centers were going to be such a demand increase driver. It was one of the items that said this is what could cause it to go up. When you look at the big data centers, Google has pledged to return more water than they use. They've pledged, and so they're the largest by and large. So 20% more water back than they take. Microsoft has pledged to be to give more water back. I don't think have yet specified a number. Meta has pledged to be net water positive by 2030. So those are just some examples of some of the companies that are saying they won't be net consumers of water. So given that, and obviously Santa Clara has a lot of experience as well as a lot of say, the cities can say, okay, it's now proven possible that you can be net zero water users, so that's the new rule going forward. So I guess my message to Danielle is, maybe we can push on this. Is this really a demand increaser or not? And can we set policies that remove it from being something that'll bias the projections upward? Thank you.
Okay, Director Mellinger, followed by Director Weed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. All models are wrong. Some models are useful. I believe that this is a useful model. And I think that, first of all, I'd actually like to ask staff, we did receive an alternate water projection from the Sierra Club for, what was it, around 140 million megagallons. And what I would like to ask is, does that projection meet the standards that we are required to meet according to state law?
I do not believe so.
Thank you, that's very helpful. The next thing I'm going to say is that when we look at the history of growth in the Bay Area, from the 1970s to the 2010s, housing construction was deliberately and artificially suppressed as a result of a variety of, frankly, ill-conceived and disastrous policies. The state has largely forced us to remove those policies. We are now actually being required, rightly, correctly, to build the amount of housing required to sustain our economy, to sustain the population growth that we can reasonably expect to see, and to start digging out of the housing deficit that has plagued our region for decades with horrific consequences. The impact of these changes on our water use are, in my opinion, pretty obvious. We are going to have to expect that water use will increase as population increases, and there are other, besides the changes in the state regulatory environment, there are other changes that are also likely to drive population growth in the Bay Area, including the national climate, the strong civil rights protections in the state of California, the generally mild climate here, which is likely to be insulated from the worst effects of climate change. All of these are factors that are likely to further drive population growth in this region, which means, and this is to Director Zichterman's point, that we cannot it would be irresponsible for us as an agency to adopt artificially low water usage projections. Yes, there are costs if we overestimate water usage projections, and we should try very hard not to. But the consequences of underestimating water usage projections are far worse, and the impacts of that would be disastrous. So I want to thank staff for the very hard work that they've done on this. I believe that this document charts a middle course, that it is appropriately but not excessively conservative, and I think that it provides excellent guidance moving forward. Thank you.
Director Reed, followed by by Director Snyder.
Yes, my concern, the operative metric of the state legislation is gallons per day per capita. And I have not seen that in this report. And we are, my understanding is nearly all of our districts are well under that. And if you, as a system, when you throw in San Francisco with its limited landscaping, they are well under it. We do not have a legislative imperative to conserve beyond what we've done today. So I encourage you to look at the state legislation which projects per capita use into the future and show how we are well within the parameters for nearly all of our districts. Thank you.
Can I just comment on that briefly? I think that that's the, I believe it was Director Hardy mentioned that only 4 of the 26 agencies or 23 urban water suppliers are projected to exceed their urban water use objective. So that was part of the study. Each of the agencies received a estimate of their future urban water use objective compared with those regulated sectors. So that it was part of this study.
Okay. Director Snyder, followed by Director Bro.
Thank you. And thank you again for all of our discussions at the policy level. I'm trying to put this into a local agency area. So we're at 184 million gallons per day for the 26 member agencies. And we get our water from SFPUC. So of that demand, how much of that is built into SFPUC's capital improvement program? And back to what Director Stone and the concern of how much water rates are going up, there's different ways we as individual agencies can deal with that. We can take obviously all of the SFPUC portion and put that into rates, but we've got our own systems to pay for. And if we're a city that is still trying to come up with recycled water or brackish water refinement, that's going to impinge our ability to do a new water supply within our individual agencies. I don't know if we've ever really talked about that because we kind of have SFPUC over here and we've got the 26 of us. Some of you have additional water supply. Some of us are 100% reliant upon SFPUC. So, and then throw in Peter Dreckmeyer and the Sierra Club. And for full disclosure, I'm a former board member of Sierra Club California. So just throwing that out there 15 years ago. What does it really mean in terms of capital improvement costs and additional future rates on that? And maybe, again, sorry, Chair Hardy, it's something that gets kicked back to policy committee to dive into and see. Speaking for my agency, we've got to come up with the money. It's about $65 million to take our sewage water, even if we only take it to the level of landscaping, that's still money we've got to come up with. And that's not part of any of the rates that we tend to talk about here. Thank you.
Director Bro, followed by Director Ragsdale.
Thank you, Chair. So similar to Director Zigterman, I want to thank and applaud staff for completing this. And I really want to give a perspective. I offer that thanks coming from just having finished a 25-year career managing 2 water systems here in the Bay Area, and as a civil engineer who's got experience with water resource planning over 40 years. The things that I want to highlight about this report that I think are important to me, number one, is the value to our individual member agencies. As a number of you have spoken, it's the individual agencies that have the duty and the responsibility to do their urban water management plan. It's the individual agencies that have the duty to require the completion of a water supply assessment if an unknown, very water-hungry entity comes in, whether that ends up being what data centers are or not. But the other piece that I want to focus on about this, I want to bring it back to what I think this means to this agency. One of the things that we are slated toward, that we've committed to, is having a reliable supply of water for all of our customers, for all 26 member agencies. And this scattergram, if I can use that, it's not a derogatory term, I hope, Danielle, is that I don't see that as a dictate that we have to plan from one number to the other. I see that as giving good information which we can plan, we can do risk analyses, we can do cost-benefit analyses, we can move forward with our colleagues in SFPUC as they look at alternative water supplies. We can look at what our member agencies need from us if necessary. We can take action as a regional financing authority to do that. And we can most certainly take the input from our NGOs who have very important concerns about continually just relying on taking waters out of the river first. So this is good information. As somebody who wants to plan this and who's done this, I'm delighted to see this. We have background, we have data, things that we can rely on. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Director Ragsdale, followed by Director Nash. Director Snyder is your name.
Danielle, I really appreciated this report and reading about it for the second time now. I haven't read the full report yet, but hearing your summary twice has been super helpful. And I agree with Randy about this is a tool for our individual agencies, and I really appreciate that aspect of it. And someone else had said, you know, we can tune our own knobs and see what's up for our individual agencies. So that is just a huge, huge service to all of us. I had a question looking at the comparison of water demand scenarios where you did the low up to the moderately high to high. And then the lowest number came out to 157, and I was wondering, which you have up there, which I was wondering with that compared to the 148 and why it was higher under these scenarios, given that I would have thought that the low would have ended up under the 148, if that makes any sense.
I'm not totally aware of all the assumptions that went into the 148. I can say that the 157 included a number of assumptions including higher price for water, slower or cooler economy, less population growth than is expected or has been approved by your agencies, less active conservation. That's another. So I'm not sure what, as you called them, knobs were turned in the other model, or how many knobs or any, but there were a number of assumptions that went into these different, so they're quite complex. There's a table that describes each of them. But so it's more nuanced than I'm aware of the nuance of the other one, or that is, I don't know how to explain that, sorry.
That does make sense, and I will read the full report one day, and I will look for this particular part. And again, thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, Director Nash.
Thank you. I guess I'm wondering, how is the information about past usage fed back into this report, and how do we get something that is so variable? The Sierra Club, we've had other reports from Yosemite River Alliance. How are these reports, why is there such a gap there?
It's hard to answer not having seen the data inputs to some of the other models. I can say that every 5 years when we update this study, we are taking in new information from really water use from the past 5 years. So for example, I showed in the first slide, excuse me, it wasn't the first slide, here we go. We ended the last study right before the governor declared a drought and mandated 15% water use reduction across the state. So it's not surprising to me that we see water demand decline in that shaded area. And that lower per account water use, so per household, is incorporated in this model, which is why you see a flatter slope in this study compared to the past study. So every round we're taking in the latest information that's being used, and we're seeing a higher density that I mentioned, and we're expecting that growth in population to be in the multifamily housing sector. So we're seeing that per account water use actually go down even more over time. So there are a number of approaches or I think, data sets that you could apply. What we are using is the agency's actual water use data. So I can't having not worked on those models, I can't really say. I will say that we've talked about a lot of the uncertainties, and we're making assumptions in here based on the best available data and what has been adopted by your agencies, for the to comply with the urban water management plans. Those other models might assume different futures, less population, cooler climates, different things.
What concerns me, as has been stated by several other people, is, ultimately, that the affordability and the fact that as we build supplies that aren't needed, that hurts everyone. But obviously we do want enough water for hopefully all the housing and the new, and the population that will be here. But I struggle with the fact that we are over-projecting consistently by a considerable amount, which then turns around and affects the rates. So I just want the more sensitivity we can have to that.
Perhaps I could clarify that these long-term water projections are not what is used by the San Francisco PUC for this latest rate notice. Every year, San Francisco collects projected water use from the regional water system from each of the agencies. So that's a very immediate, it's next year, right? This isn't 5 years from now. So I think, was it Director Pierce mentioned that there's different projections for different purposes. I apologize if I got that wrong, maybe who said that, but these long-range projections are not what was used to create that rate increase.
But these long-range projections will be used to decide how much, basically further capital improvement projects and how much beyond what just is regular system maintenance, but how much we need to build the system out, how much water needs to be ultimately provided. And that will affect what is spent and ultimately goes to our ratepayers.
Okay. Any further questions from board members? I do have some speaker cards on item 11. Peter, did you want to talk about this section? Yes, sir. And you'll be followed by Mark Shahanan. And then you? Okay.
Peter Dreckmeyer, Yosemite Rivers Alliance. I also want to commend Danielle for doing a really, really good job on this study and report, as did Hazen. I wanted to address that issue of 157 versus 148. I think that's comparing apples to apples, and I'm hoping Danielle will correct me if I'm wrong, but the 157 is the low projection that includes, that's total BAWSCA demand that includes purchases from other agencies or local water, I believe. The 148 is taking the baseline of 222 and subtracting water from other sources, so it would be purchases from the SFPUC 148. I had a sense that you didn't quite pick up what the question was. So if you take the baseline 148 purchase from the SFPUC and then you add in the San Francisco retail, you're getting up to about 200 MGD of demand/sales. Demand has been under 200 MGD for the past 11 years, around 190 average. If you take the 157, which in my opinion will be much closer to the actual than the baseline, and you subtract the purchases from non-SFPUC providers, you're under 100 MGD purchased from BAWSCA, from the SFPUC from BAWSCA. And then you add in San Francisco and you're about 150 MGD. But let's just take a look at the 200. If the drought of record repeated 6 years, demand was 200 MGD, and we had the Bay Delta Plan flows in place, we make it through that drought. And SFPUC doesn't challenge that question. They just say, well, we're planning for something different. Valley Water and East Bay Mud, they're planning for that 6-year drought. The design drought is 19 times less likely to happen than what they're planning for. So if you live in an area, in an agency that can buy water either from Valley Water or the SFPUC, you have to ask yourself, is Valley Water going to run out of water and we need to panic? Or is the design drought too conservative? 19 times less likely to happen. Return period for the drought of record, 420 years. Return period for the design drought, 8,000 years. 19 times. So this is so easy for us to meet both our needs for the environment and for, and for water supply. I guess my time's up. Thank you.
Okay, Mark?
Good evening. It's been a long meeting. Mark Shahenian again with the Sierra Club. So I'm here to say, obviously, I'm here for the water in the environment, right? The Bay Delta Plan is a really big deal for the Sierra Club, and every drop of water that is planned not to be in those rivers is not a drop of water that the environment, the fish, the birds, all the ecosystem gets to use. And the unfortunate effect of a high water projection over time has been that it allows both SFPUC staff and BAWSCA staff to argue against the Bay Delta Plan. This is why we care about this at the Sierra Club. This is why we're here. So let me just lay that out there. Answer to Director Stone's question, the projections tend to be about 50% too high when you look 15 years out. So if you're looking at the, what would that be now, 2010 projection, it's about 50% higher than what we saw in 2025 for actual use. And happy to share the model. I think everybody has my email. If you don't, you can find me after the meeting. Happy to share the model itself. You can play with the assumptions. You can see what you think. You can see what you believe. It is not set up to do the exact same things the Hazen model does, but it is set up to use the best available science around future drought and climate projections to project what water use might be in the future. Like any projection, of course, it's not the answer, but it's a different alternative than what Hazen tends to produce. Hazen does work all over the state. They're inaccurate in similar ways all over the state. By the way, Sunnyvale, call you guys out. You guys are one of the rare cities in the group that tends to be accurate in your forecasting, at least in the 5-year out basis that I've looked at. So that's it. Happy to answer any questions by email, or I'll give you my phone number if you want, and love to engage in the conversation. Thank you.
Okay, Dave Warner. Thank you. 3 hopefully pretty quick comments. First one is the Danielle BAWSCA's You're All demand study is terrific. It's a wonderful step forward. It's a big step forward from the last one. I really appreciate you guys doing this and investing it. I think it's good value for all of your constituents. I think the Sierra Club model, maybe in 5 years, some of the features that it has will be incorporated in a future model, and I think actually Hazen might be looking at that from Danielle's conversations. The second point is I'd just like to mention about demand hardening. You know, the SFPUC had a big study that they said in 2007, demand hardening, it was happening. And they even had David Sunding, the economist, do an analysis saying, yep, it was happening. I would just ask, and I think I presented this in November, when you look at recent data, we've so far have not seen a sign of demand hardening. And so I can understand our guts might think that, but I'd really ask, try to find data that actually supports it, and I don't think you will yet. It may be coming, and it's a risk, but not yet. My last comment is to Director Showalter's remark, which I thought was terrific, is perhaps there could be that there are different purposes for different numbers. Perhaps there could be the lower range of the demand model could be used for giving it to the SFPUC and say, hey, you guys, when you're projecting financials, use these lower numbers. And when you look at this chart on the right, it goes out 10 years. So you really do want the SFPUC to use lower numbers. The San Diego County Water Authority did this, and it was quite shocking what they found. So that's, and then you use your regular urban water management plan numbers for your urban water management plan. So we have two different sets of numbers. The SFPUC already does this. Those are my three ideas, and thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other members from the public? Okay, I think we need to extend this meeting. We could probably do it in about half an hour, another half an hour. It's 8:46 now, so I'd like to entertain the motion to, well, let's be a little generous and say 9:20.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Director Hamilton moves to 9:20.
Second.
Second from Mellinger. We need to do a roll call vote,
Andrews?
or really discussion before we do our vote. Roll call vote?
Aye.
Director Andrews? Director Bro?
Yes, yes.
Director Chambers?
Yes.
Director Cohen?
Aye.
Director Duncan?
Aye.
Director Hamilton?
Aye.
Director Hardy?
Aye.
Director Jordan?
Yes.
Director Kiesel? Director Lincoln?
Yes.
Director Manalo?
Aye.
Director Mellinger?
Yes.
Director Mickelson? Director Nash?
Yes.
Director Piccolotti? Director Pierce?
Yes.
Director Ragsdale?
Yes.
Director Schneider?
Aye.
Director Showalter?
Yes.
Director Stevenson?
I think he's gone.
Okay, Director Stone?
Yes.
Director Vella?
Aye.
Director Weed?
Aye.
And Director Ziegterman?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous.
Okay. Our next item is mid-year review of the 2025-26 work plan, and Mr. CEO Smegal will be going up to the podium. Big room.
All right, given that I estimated half an hour, I'll go quickly. So the great news is that our mid-year review revealed that we are on track with our work plan, and we are on budget with our work plan, and therefore we are not asking for any dispensation from the board to change either the work plan or the budget. And if there is an incident or reason for me to do that, I will come back to you at the appropriate time. As was mentioned earlier, our general reserve balance is more than 1.7 million and 31% of our operating budget. So I'm going to go through the work plan. You have that in your packet. You have that in the slides, if you have a copy of the slides. I am just going to jump to a couple of maybe 5 or 6 highlights. I'm not going to talk about this whole work plan. If you have questions about specific items, I'm happy to take them. But I'm just going to jump and highlight a couple things that we've been working a lot on and have had great success with. And so the first that we work a lot on is the monitoring and reviewing of the SFPUC's CIP. That we'll talk about in just a second is something that we're working on at the instant. About 4 o'clock today, Tom got all the documents from San Francisco, and over the next week or two is a really intense time period for us on this project, but it's something that we do continuously, and I'll talk a little bit more specifically about that as we go later on. I don't know what that bell was for. Am I doing that, or is that Jordan doing that? Okay. So regarding reliable water supply, slide 2, this is going to be obvious to you. We have been focused on Strategy 2050 and focused on the water demand projections, and you've heard a lot about this at our meetings over the last year. Not a surprise. That's taking up a lot of our time. The next topic that I would want to mention here and just highlight, we represent your interest in discussions about water conservation activities. So there's one big new water conservation program, which is the state's objective of making conservation a California way of life. And one of the responses of BAWSCA is to work with Valley Water and with your agencies to put on a series of workshops. And I think that we're scheduled to do a series of 12 or 14 workshops in this fiscal year that help educate the agency staff on what needs to be done with respect to this new legislation. It's really going well. We've had 50 to 60 people attend each of these virtual workshops. We're starting to have some in-person workshops coming up next month. I will highlight next the drought response implementation plan, the Tier 2 plan. Obviously, we talked about that earlier, and the WSA amendment. These are huge wins for the BAWSCA member agencies and a huge lift by our staff. So we're really excited. These are our gold star items in the work plan. And then I will highlight, just going through here, that we continually participate with San Francisco and with others in evaluating progress on the State Water Resources Control Board Bay Delta Plan update, the Healthy Rivers and Landscapes Program. We did have speakers in attendance and by phone at the November 5th workshop that was on the scientific basis report. And so we continually monitor that, as you know. I won't go through much detail here. These are regular activities of the staff, but all are going well. And then finally, I will highlight, and we mentioned this, I think, at our last meeting, that through Christina's work, we did an excellent job in the last fiscal year, both catching up on our reviews of the San Francisco wholesale revenue requirement, but also reaching agreement and saving you all a lot of money. And one of the big aspects of that was identifying the effect of drought on minimum purchase agencies, and that was I think a $3 million savings that applied to the last fiscal year that we evaluated. So that is great work by Christina and the staff. And then these others, again, are ongoing activities. I won't go into any detail on those. Happy to take any questions from board members on the ongoing work plan that we have for 25-26.
Any questions from the public? Okay.
I'll just note my question. Oh, yeah. I'll just note my question from earlier. Can that be added to the demand review?
That's the next item, but
next item.
Absolutely, yes. Okay, so moving along, I see no questions. The next, here we go, Angela, is the work plan and budget planning session for the next fiscal year, for the 26-27 fiscal year. So we're just beginning our analysis of what we would be doing in 26-27. And so we begin with an assessment of our long-term critical issues. And that, again, was in your packet, broken down into short-term, medium-term, and long-term issues. And it allows us to look out to 2065 and say, what are the things that we're going to be continually concerned about or worried about in 2065? And what are we worried about in the present time? What should be evaluated in the current fiscal year of 26-27? So I have this table, and again, given the time constraint, you have this in your packet. I'm not going to go through it in detail. But we have related to long-term water supply reliability. We have a number of items there that we've identified over the years as our near, mid, and long-term, and most of them are all near, mid, and long-term activities. There are some there that are maybe not long-term activities that are more, for instance, the Bay Delta Plan. One hopes that there can be a resolution of that someday and that we won't be dealing with that in 2065. I know that's what this table says. I don't know if that's reality or not. And certainly the last on here, which is the December 2028 decisions regarding San Jose and Santa Clara, that is hopefully going to be resolved by 2028. Similarly, water system facilities, you can see the items on here. Again, you've seen these in your packet as well. I won't go into great detail on these. Enforcing the water supply agreement, similarly, these are going to be our long-term activities identified in the water supply agreement. And then finally, managing the agency. So some of the things that we do to continually manage the BAWSCA agency. So the question to you, which Angela has already supplied one answer for us, is are there other items that we should be looking at in in the near term or in the long term that should be considered. Other activities, other issues for the long term, so other work product items that we might want to consider. I also recall at one of our past meetings, I'll just jump the gun on board discussion of this, we did talk about affordability analysis and trying to do that more regularly, and I think that's something that we've already kind of written that note. So that's something that I would write here. I think Director Stevenson or Director Nash might have said that in a past meeting. And so we've already recorded that, but we'd love to hear any other thoughts that the board has, individual board members have. Tonight, I don't expect to get into a big dialogue, and I know that we have a very short time window to do the rest of our agenda. So we're really looking I would only respond to you in the sense of clarifying what your request is. But I do want to hear kind of a brainstorm list of topics or ideas that directors might have.
Manolo.
Thank you so much for this work plan. I know in the past that we have talked about how do we incorporate more of the next generation in understanding water. And so I just want to know, it was in the work plan previously with Nicole when she was CEO. I want to know if that's still going to be continue. I think it's important for us to have those opportunities for youth and young people to understand how our systems work and also to build a pipeline in the future.
Thank you.
Director Ragsdale.
Yes, thank you. I don't know where this goes, but it's kind of overall, but just planning for and how to react to changes from the federal side, like in terms of availability of grants or water decisions that maybe the federal administration makes for all of us that without our consent.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Director Andrews.
I was going to also ask about opportunities for outreach, and was wondering if we were partnering with groups like Water Education for Latino Leaders and California African American Water Education Foundation. Some of those groups I would be interested in looking at potential opportunities. And also wanted to know about the Advanced Quantitative Precipitation Information Project and seeing if that work is in line with what work we're doing. I know that SFPUC is part of that project, but I'm not sure what other agencies in the West sector is part of that project. So I don't know if BAWSCA is representing us in that.
Okay, thank you.
Director Zichterman, followed by Director Snyder.
Thank you, Chair. Tom, I don't know if it's in here already, but if not, some studies about the impact of polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS, microplastics, they're huge potential, maybe the next lead asbestos level environmental contaminant areas involving much more than water, public health, habitat, everything. But what are the potential water impacts as we watch this problem surface and maybe not enough attention given to it? Some general knowledge would be helpful if that's not in here already.
Okay, thank you.
Director Snyder, followed by Director Hamilton.
I can't remember the date when the enabling legislation that created BAWSCA was there, but it's probably well past time to look at BAWSCA's enabling legislation and find out if it's currently up to date. For example, we pay 67% of the system, and SFPUC brings us some of the capital improvement projects, but not all of them, and not in any detail. Now we've discovered that even the SFPUC commissioner of non-elected people they don't get to see the full detail of the various CIP projects, and they are the ones that vote for it. So our rates are being set by non-elected officials in San Francisco. So I think we need to look at the enabling legislation and figure out if there are some changes there that give us a little bit more power over what capital improvement projects are done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Hamilton.
We talked about this a little bit earlier, and it comes up a lot through our meetings, and that's how our arena allocations that we get don't think about water at all. And I'm just wondering if there's anything that we could look into for perhaps we can approach ABAG as a group to figure out how they can they might be able to adjust their methodologies to account for water usage when giving us our allocations to the cities for the next round.
Okay, thank you.
Director Snyder, are you done? Okay, and Director Hamilton's done.
Pierce.
Go ahead.
No, I saw Director Pierce.
Oh, Director Pierce, sorry.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom, for the list of challenges. I see that they never seem to change or get better, so I guess that's the nature of challenges. I would, as you're going through like the 2050 plan, it would be really nice for us to have some idea about how we could have more input in terms of phasing to make sure that we provide sufficient water and yet contain expenses, but you've heard a lot about that tonight. And I know most of us have spoken with our water management reps, and so if there's a time that we can provide that input to staff and to you, I think that would be helpful, and I don't know if that's best in a meeting or if you'd prefer that in another manner. Thanks.
Okay, any other comments from the board? Seeing none, any comments from public? Go ahead for 2 minutes. This Dave Warner's coming to the lectern.
Okay, so it's just quick, though. I first would love to say that I think Director Schneider's comment about the structural relationship we have with the SFPUC so that we have more influence and say would be just terrific. The second thing I'd say is the demand study, as I mentioned before, I thought was a terrific value add. We did see that the demand projection dropped by about 20 MGD, so that it looks like we are projecting, even from before, that we're using less water, even if it's at the target amount. The reason I bring this up is related to Director Pierce's comment. It would sure seem to me as a constituent, I'm not all that enthused about looking at alternative water supply sources or looking at ways of improving our water supply reliability, which is what Strategy 2050 seems to be focused on. If it could change focus to be more on constraining expenses or understanding our costs or ways to manage our costs, I think that'd be a much improved value add. But doesn't seem like that's where we're going. Okay, those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay, Peter, you more public comment?
Peter Dreckmeyer. I mentioned before that the design drought is 19 times less likely to happen than the drought of record that other agencies are planning for. That's an incredibly expensive insurance policy, and the cost has been almost exclusively borne by the environment. But some of that cost is going to shift towards ratepayers if you start investing in a lot of alternative water supplies that aren't needed, very expensive. I mentioned that at 200 MGD demand, with the Bay Delta plan in place, the SFPUC could manage a repeat of the worst drought on record. And that's without any rationing. If you include rationing, the SFPUC could manage a drought 35% more severe than the worst drought on record. And I'm talking 1,100 years of tree ring data. If you think that there's a drought more severe up to 72% more severe, that's the design drought, that's when you start planning for alternative water supplies. But I would encourage you to shelve Strategy 2050 as it is right now. You're never going to need that water. I mean, basically it's looking at, well, what are we going to invest in? And put those funds into really examining a lot of these issues, and we can help jumpstart you on that. An example of planning for water that you're not going to need, Palo Alto. one water plan cost $559,000. When our Utilities Advisory Commission started looking at the numbers, they said, this is ridiculous. It's on the shelf. That was wasted money. Palo Alto sent questions to the SFPUC to help with planning, and were denied. And BAWSCA didn't support Palo Alto. Why? I mean, we got to get answers to these questions. So thank you. We're looking for leadership. If you care about the environment in your heart, talk to me, because the solutions are not that hard. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments from the public? Okay, our next item is item 13, CEO reports. Mr. Smegal?
Thank you. I have a couple of items that I will try to run through relatively quickly. The first is that a number of years back, the board asked our staff to periodically review our consultant charge rates, and we have done so again. If you look to this slide here, that's the easiest description of it. We've found that all of our consultants that we currently use, including our attorneys, legal counsel, are well within the range that we would have found outside of BAWSCA. And so happy to take any questions on that. But that we will revisit this on a every other year basis, every 2 years basis. But right now we feel like we're comfortable with the charging rates. And then obviously whenever we have a new RFP, that's going to end up being at a market rate, because we're going to look at direct competition at the time that we do a new RFP. Okay, seeing no questions on that. Just a very quick update on the Bay Delta plan and the FERC process. There really isn't much of an update since November on the Bay Delta plan. We expect that sometime this year, the state board will issue a second draft of the scientific basis report. And at that time, we may look to the board to provide comments, provide statements at any additional workshop or program that happens. We'll keep you updated on that as well. On the Sacramento system, there has been an update in late December, and so that's what's called the phase 2 of the Bay Delta plan. The state board reissued the draft updates for the Sacramento side and added some description of the Healthy Rivers and Landscapes program on the Sacramento side. And finally, that FERC update is that continues to go along. The agencies are working on their environmental reviews. Happy to take any questions on that. Not much of an update. Finally, I mentioned a couple of times earlier that we are in the midst of a very active period for the San Francisco Capital Improvement Plan, the CIP. Every other year, San Francisco develops a new 10-year CIP, and our interactions are condensed in a very short period. So in December, we got their draft documents. Later in December, we had a meeting and went over the changes that had occurred in the last 2 years from what was in the prior CIP to now. And then as described in our water supply agreement, we're provided a copy of the workshop final CIP materials 14 days in advance of their hearing. And that was today. We did receive those today. And then the hearing will be on January 29th. And around that time, BAWSCA supplies comments to the SFPUC, and to the extent, again, according to the water supply agreement, to the extent that we are providing those comments in a timely manner, they're obligated to respond to those comments. And so that is our intense interaction with them. With that said, we have a continuous engagement on CIP. We have quarterly meetings where we get updates on what's being constructed, any delays, any cost increases or decreases. And so we do monitor the CIP on a continual basis. But it's key to know that when these CIPs are developed, again, the water supply agreement calls for a lot more information on projects that are going to be constructed in the next 2 years. And so you can imagine that the projects that go along that are now, in the last CIP were 10 years out, well, they're now 8 years out, if nothing changed. And so you go along with that sequence, and Tom and his group work very diligently on this, so we'll hear about projects over the course of really a 10-year period, and then that intense discussion of the very specifics of the project come later as those projects are getting closer and closer to the early end of the CIP. There weren't a lot of changes that we saw in this CIP as compared to the prior CIP. There's a few additional projects related to the local reservoirs that Allison talked about earlier. But otherwise, there are things that we've known about for a long time and things that have been in progress and in planning for a long time. And so while we're very engaged on a general basis, we're super engaged here for the next couple of weeks or a month. And happy to take any questions on that if anybody has any questions on that.
Any questions from the board?
I've browbeaten you into no questions.
Okay, any comments from the public? One more, okay. Stephen. Okay, Stephen Ronaldo.
He's almost.
Just a second.
Thank you, BAWSCA, for having me tonight. My name is Stephen Rinaldi, Vice Mayor of the City of Millbrae, where one of these CIP projects will be occurring. I'll keep my comments brief. I learned about the Millbrae Yard project not very long ago, and over the holidays have been digging into it very diligently. I could tell you, learning about the history, I have some reservations. City of Millbrae just last year, one of my first actions on council was raising rates on our residents, raising those retail rates by about 7% a year for the next 5 years. So that brings up the questions I'm about to ask you folks. Upon learning about the CIP and the Millbrae Yard project, there's a lot of questions here about the rates that unfortunately have not been answered yet. And those questions, pull them up real quick, that I would like to ask on behalf of the City of Millbrae is, what's the financial cost of losing rent from Outdoor Supply Hardware and KFC? Haven't seen any numbers on that yet. I'd also like to know, why are ratepayers being asked to build office space when we have 33% vacancy in San Francisco and over 20% in the peninsula? Did SFPUC look at existing office space in the area? What efforts were made to put shops on the east side where they currently are located? Why would we be retrofitting Outdoor Supply Hardware to make it a bigger shop when this shop has never existed before and operations were able to consist? The reason why I ask these questions is because the rates are very high right now. And these CIPs and rate hikes aren't even baked into the rates yet. So ratepayers are going to be asked to foot the bill yet again. So please do consider those. I know the CIP is going to come under some scrutiny and reviews, project by project, and I hope you'll consider that. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, we have canceled the closed sessions, so there's no report from closed session. Director's discussion. Okay.
Sorry, Tom. There's one very brief, and Lourdes will be sending you emails about this, so I won't go into great detail. You may have heard about Senate Bill 707, which updated the Brown Act. There's very few changes that are affecting BAWSCA. So you should not expect any changes from SB 707 in BAWSCA's activity. However, Senate Bill 852 did change where you file your Form 700s. You now have to file them with the FPPC. Lourdes has forwarded your contact information to them, I think today. So you'll be getting contacted by them on how to file that. You'll no longer file with BAWSCA. And finally, this is very exciting for all of us because I think, one of the people that has to do this. But Senate Bill 827 required all of our board members and certain of our staff to do fiscal and financial training. And you must do that by January 1st of 2028. The Special Districts Association has a training already, and we will give you information soon about how to access that training. You have a long time to do that. If someone comes on as a new director of BAWSCA, just FYI for any successor that you might know of, if you're leaving or whatever, they have 6 months. So if someone were to join us mid-year, 1 year, they would have until the end of that year to complete this training. But for existing directors, you have until the end of 2027. Sorry, Mr. Chambers, Director Chambers, that is my report.
Any other items on CEO reports? No public comment on that. Okay, again, closed session, we're canceling, no report from closed session. Director discussions. Any director discussions? Director Ragsdale. Say again?
I want to thank our chair for guiding us the last 2 years. He is a unique individual without a unique first name on this board. But you have guided us so well and diligently, kept us on time, kept us informed, and I just wanted to thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for supporting me, and it's been an education, and I appreciate it. It's 9:16, so we made it by 4 minutes. Director Snyder.
I believe Vice Mayor Rinaldi from Millbrae may have done that, but again, I want to thank the staff from SFPUC coming to Millbrae. However, this is a very big deal for us. We're only 3.26 square miles, and 28% of us are already owned by SFPUC or SFO or BART. So when you take away a piece of commercial property, when you have so little, it will impact our ability to help our low-rate customers and to do the water supply that we have to do inside. So I do have a set of financial questions that I think for any project in any of our 26 agencies should be part of us looking at any SFPUC area. And it includes, like most people don't realize that San Francisco has special legislation that allows it to work in other counties and additional rules. This is what we are learning right now. It may impact your community, it may not on that. So this might be another request at the policy level to come back and look at this and be able to dive into the details. And again, I've been an activist for about 40 years. To me, if there's something in the legislation that can be improved and make communication clear, make responsibilities clear, that could be one of the end results. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Okay. The time, location, next slide, please. Okay, next meeting is March 19th, 6:30. I think it's going to be here. If there's no further comments, it is still 9:18. We stand adjourned.